we're gonna talk about, because it seems to be a very hot topic there. Okay, we're up. So, so this is augmented intelligence will become the future of work. It's actually my favorite theme that I talk about, roughly about 5 conferences a year, boutique conferences like this and some bigger ones as well. So I actually started talking about replacing artificial intelligence with augmented intelligence about 3 years ago. And if you look at, other companies, whether it be Sam Nadella at Microsoft, Ginny Rometty, Mike at IBM, et cetera, they're saying the same stuff. Actually, last year, in 2018 at IBM Think, which is a new flagship conference, I did a presentation that augmented intelligence is the new way forward. So a little bit about me. So I advise numerous AI startups. They range anywhere from 5 to 8, simultaneously. Sounds like a lot. Some of them are more involved than others. But my deliverables are pretty much turnkey. So that's where the force multiplier comes in. So I do it on the front end, and right to the partner engagement on the back end. And if you want to understand more about what I do, I did a recent podcast that the link is there. It's actually, to find it, it's my pinned tweet on SRDeary, so you can find it there. So, so this is a little sampling. I had alluded to the IBM Think. I did a fantastic show, AI Showbiz. So I like different type of venues, healthcare, showbiz, et cetera. And just like moderating the panel after lunch, this was a fabulous panel where we talked about for the digital future applied to entertainment, consumer entertainment. So we talked about conversational AI, XR, mixed reality sensors, and it was quite interesting. For the enterprise side of things, AI World in Boston is my wheelhouse. I've been there. This is my 4th year in a row. And this year, doing something similar to doing here, but it's going to be a panel session on augmented intelligence will become the future of work. And then the healthcare, AI Med, which is a phenomenal show in December in California. I'm involved in that as well. So the last one here was Work Rebooted. So I gave you a nice sampling of where I operate here. But I had so we had a 3-person panel session. There they are up there. There's me moderating. And one of the questions I had, because there was a lot of, talent management, HR people there that were just pontificating a little bit too much about how, we use surveys to really, to look at the candidates. So yes, we respect the bias, et cetera. And I kind of just, popped off just to kind of sober things up a little bit about forget fears of automation. Your job's probably bullshit anyway. But it led to a nice downflow because Matt Mottola, who heads up teams at Microsoft, came right up with, yeah, I came from one of those jobs. And there's a lot of different, facets and angles to it. So it actually played out pretty well, okay? So, so at a recent conference, world leaders have decided, that the next step is augmenting humans, right? So, so there's validity in that because basically, when you look at the metrics, AI is expected to drive, $16 trillion of global GDP by 2030. That's a huge number. I mean, that's basically what the GDP of the USA is today, 16 billion, right? So the AI market today, which is significant, is growing to like almost 40 billion in 2025. And that's up, from just less than a billion in 2016. So the investment is just percolating. I help fund, well, not, I get funded, help startups get funded, but the money coming in is significant. It's going to probably go to 5 billion in funding this year. So what it's going to come down to, just to kind of close off on this slide, is globally it's going to come down to the AI haves versus the have-nots. It's going to come down to that. So the whole dynamics have changed, And that's why you're seeing, other countries like Singapore, as an example, are very progressive, and the Seven Dragons, and some of the Eastern Europe companies. There's just a lot of really great talent out there. Okay, so let's get into more of how enterprises are using this. So I put up a couple of data clouds, and the one on the left we're all familiar with. And actually Babar touched upon, and he didn't see my presentation, nor did I see his beforehand. But this is really, going forward, what is needed for, for the new competitive advantage. And so in addition to what's in the cloud, I put in some other hashtags, explainable AI, emotion AI, conversation AI, with true meaning. So the thing about it is, current machine learning only learns what is explicitly written or stated. So it misses implications, assumptions, and context, right? Humans, right, we have a facility, right, to fill in gaps from any questions that are posed, right? And that's, so any credible AI today can do the who, what, where, when, and how, but not the why. Why is the holy grail out there. It's the causal analysis and common sense reasoning. And to put it into a frame, I put together this slide, which I'm going to spend some time on. So I'm using chatbots as an example. So type 1 and type 2, we're all familiar with those. I'm going to go fast. It's really just task-based driven, where you want to buy something, right? Type 3, so the more sophisticated chatbots are data-driven, right? And you're trying to determine intent using correlation to address behavioral understanding and perceptions. However, the methodology to do that with deep learning, it doesn't work. Because deep learning doesn't understand context. And as some of this, let alone the explainability, I love the chart or the slide that Babar put up on that, right? So this is why it's a hot area for the causal analysis to try to crack that. And once it's done, it will be more human-like, right? I'm going to stay away from type 4, because that's still years away, where we're going to get artificial general intelligence and sentience, right? Other people, luminaries like Ray Kurzweil, can talk about that. So I'm a big believer in emotion AI. In fact, I've had up to 4 emotion AI gigs along the years. These are quotes that I've done over the years. But really, you can't have, emotion is so important, is that people don't change behavior on information, they change it on emotions. And that's why, to really understand people and intent, that's why it's a key area. So Soul Machines, as an example, they're out of Auckland, New Zealand. I know them well. It was a former advisor gig of mine. They create the most lifelike, emotionally intelligent avatars out there today. Moshe is taking a different approach out of New York. So they actually are creating it's more than emotion detection. This is emotion synthesis. So they actually have everybody's familiar with GPUs. They have an EPU. It's called an emotion processing unit. So the target market for them, rather than trying to clone human, so if you're embedding this into AR, VR, or games or robotics, why try to be human-like? Let the synthesis come up with the instantiation of the personality there, right? So another one of my gigs is X clones, and towards human level understanding. They have their own approach. It doesn't use deep learning, and they use instant learning, and they don't have the dependencies on the training sets, and they have 84% accuracy. It's getting really quite good there. So on the right side, what's really missing here is exactly what Yoshio Bengio says, right? Understanding and generalizations, like what humans do with facility. And as Judea says, you're right, this is the causal analysis and reasoning. If you really want to build intelligent machines, you need this. Deep learning doesn't do it. One of my most recent gigs is Pad AI. So Pad AI actually is built on a solid linguistic model, where they have a brain theory overlay called patent theory. You can see more information on their website, Pat AI. And essentially what they do is they understand the meanings of words where the output, language independent, by the way. So we're starting with English, Mandarin, and Spanish, and then, with the full development, hit any language there. So it's really quite, novel and revolutionary, and starting to get some interesting traction. So getting into, now this is the sobering reality of it all in terms of the rate of automation. And I don't need to read the slides because it's pretty significant. Here we are, in a couple of years away from 2022, but look, by 2025, right? The machines jump over the 50% there. So that's why I've been using augmented intelligence, because it's really humans, AI. That's the future of work going forward, right? So I'm not going to get into a lot of this because the closing session of the day, tomorrow, Saturday, is automation, robotics and automation, another panel session that I'm moderating there. So we'll just push on from there. So this is my contention. In the AI age, machines will emerge as the top collaborators. And look at those shocking stats. When I came across the top one, or actually both of them, but wow, that's just 3 to 5% of employees are generating the value-added collaborations. So it really begs the question, what are other, workers doing or could be doing better? And this study by IBM confirmed that they're struggling. That's why the retraining is a hot subject, et cetera, right? So other metrics, almost 90% of executives would trust, the wise counsel. And, but that doesn't mean that humans are eliminated, right? There's an opportunity, right? The opportunity for organizations today, is with all the millions of data points and information becoming faster and dynamic, right? Pretty much employees can't keep up. So that's where machines can do the repetitive tasks, right? Where the humans, can work in conjunction with the machines. And the net effect of that is you can understand complex issues faster, like the graphic that's playing in the lower right there, and you can solve problems faster and more effectively, right? So basically, the knowledge worker in this modality can spend more time interpreting insights, taking critical action, and use their own tacit knowledge, because really you're looking at a combinatorial, right? You want to merge the explicit with the tacit, and once you get that, you've got a really nice nexus there. It's moving faster, that's why AI and the need for speed, and then the complexity as defined in that graphic there. So this is an interesting slide regarding that. So in social media needs, these are, in terms of the rise of the virtual, when I see things about influencers and AI, I just roll my eyes. And because it's all game statistics, right, for the most part. And I know a lot of these people, I've been with them at events and so forth like this. So this is really, they're not flesh and blood, millions, they're getting a following, and you're starting to see, instantiations of this, right? And that's essentially what we talked about part of what we talked about at AI Showbiz, right? Is this whole notion of, combinatorial, emotion AI conversations. We talked about a lot of stuff that I don't have time to go into, but I'll be around through tomorrow. And here's the neuroscience justification, regarding why it's a good thing for humans working with machines. When you really look at the charts up there, right, we have overtaxed working memory, will knock you out of sync, right? And we use this as a cliche. I'm not out of sync here, I'm not grokking it and so forth. And there's the metrics through fMRI scans on the right that really give the proof positive to this, right? And the other thing too, why information is becoming more dynamic, and we're learning more by dynamic visual media. 90% of information, and we get this on the visual rather than just reading it. So heck, if you can use machine learning to analyze the text faster, better, smarter, and then you can do tease up what is relevant, and you can get stuff done a whole lot better. I've trained myself, to do this over decades, and if you have the commitment and are a lifelong learner, it works. So augmented intelligence will definitely redefine management. There's the metrics in the upper left quadrant there. The 5 takeaways is leave the administration to AI, focus on the judgment work, treat intelligent machines as colleagues, as we talked about, and develop better social skills and networks. It's important. So right now, this is, I think it's great. It's greater. I forgot where that quote from Gardner was about being supervised by a robot. And I had a little quip there in terms of use cases of what robots will include there. But the other thing to take away here is, if you're doing procedural work, right? So McKinsey has, metrics here to where 800 million workers worldwide could lose their jobs. I think, when they did this report, I think they were overanalyzing it. In the U.S., it's 73 million jobs. But basically, if your job is routine cognitive, and this is just not the low level. You have lawyers, bankers, accountants, doctors. But in doctors, there's, when I did the AI in healthcare, using AI with doctor's judgment gives you higher accuracy, okay? I mean, that's the benefit of it. It's superior in terms of, the combinatorial. So I kind of like this slide because, you talk about the Global 2000. They love to proselytize regarding, we're an innovation culture. But this is really, in many respects, most of them fail. There's a lot of reasons why, but, they'd rather play it safe with more, collaboration as more of a talking point, but in terms of, actually putting it into play, they're really missing this. And at work Rebooted, I like John Hagel, really nailed it here with that quote. They don't like change unless it's mandated, right from the top. So that's why you're seeing kind of, the gig economy is starting to percolate up. And at Work Rebooted, I had 2 of the panelists there that were gig economy platforms. And they were saying now that we're getting higher caliber people that have 15, 20 years, don't want to work at, a Global 2000 company. They'd like to do different type of gigs. So they're getting, they're not a great networker. So we're starting to really see, where the freelancers are, which will be, become the workforce majority in the U.S. By like 2025. So another metric is 55% of employed adults would jump ship from a traditional job to a self-employed if it could still pay their bills. So there's a lot of hunger to do this because it's more interesting. Not for everybody, but it's interesting for more and more people. So this gets back to how you perpetuate individually in the AI age, right? And it will mean something not completely different. If you look at the 2020 versus 2015, it's kind of the same list, but it's reprioritized. And the ones that really cherry pick there is critical thinking and creativity bubble up, underneath the complex solving, right? So you kind of have a repriority of that. You have to be a lifelong learner. I'm one of them. I've never stopped since, high school, college days. It's enjoyment. And it's true, the Einstein quote, you start dying. So the fourth industrial revolution, is about empowering people. And I'm a liberal arts graduate, even though a geology degree, but this is where a new set of skills, so, the softer skills, that are gonna really, come about as, the future is imagination, creativity, and strategy. Actually, Babar pointed to the same pointer regarding Stephen Schwarzman giving a 188 million grant to Oxford University to create this institution. That also includes the ethics of AI, which you didn't mention. So really, it's sort of almost like a triumph for the generalists, right? Where you have an interdisciplinary array of skill sets. And to embellish that just a little further, just 2 more slides, this is a great chart on how to get smarter. I mean, it's just fabulous. The one I like the most is, learning how to learn. If you don't have that one, you're probably not gonna. And then I penned this with people are familiar with Richard Feynman, the brilliant. He was the great explainer, brilliant. And this is 4 of his tomes there that you can read, and it's so true. Yeah, and I'd like the 3rd one probably the best, or the 3rd and 4th. That's the ultimate test. If you can't explain, right, your knowledge or your class and convey it to another, and the fun part as well is really spot on. So the close, summary slide on that. I also like the attribution to Louis Pasteur regarding chance phase of the prepared mind. And I always put the Agaki now in my slide deck. I did it at AI Showbiz because, it's a nice compilation of the reason, your reason for being, that really combines a lot of the, the passion, the mission, the profession, and so forth like that. So with that said, I'll take questions.
Yes. Yeah, like with the solid interesting quote, I think with effectiveness should be a human pursuit, but efficiency can be tasked for machines.
Yes.
So
that's the alluding to Peter Drucker. Yes.
Okay. So considering stuff like I-squared analysis or cause and effect relationship for humans to take a judgment or use statistical methods to see how effective this causality is, can that also be not done by a machine?
No, because correlation is not causality, and just for that reason, the simple answer to that. Yeah. But a good question. Thank you. Yes.
I'm sure you have thought of this, but do you think consciousness could ever be instilled into machines? And if so, do you think that that is a prerequisite to achieving singularity?
Right, that's the Ray Kurzweil. So that's why I stayed away from type 4. I don't want to even, yes, it's emergent, but we have the road to get there is this augmented intelligence road and figuring out, the why AI, the common sense reasoning. If we don't bridge that, that's just a pipe dream, but it's a good question. Yes, right here.
Do you believe that the Bureau of Labor Statistics projections for what jobs will be eliminated or explode in the next years are accurate, or do you think that it's based on just historical data without AI being?
The latter. And that's why it's, you just look at it and you say, pretty lame, I mean, there was I didn't go to it, but there was an AI World Government, and they did have somebody, not from this Bureau of Labor Statistics, but Health and Human Services. They were making an effort, but it's not quite there yet on that chord. Did I see another hand? No? Yes? Okay. I'll be around, and like I said, we're, for those that want to do the AI and ethics, that's after lunch. So thank you very much.